there's no excuse for this. Let's begin. The article says that pensioners were underpaid a staggering £530 million last year because of mistakes by government officials. New analysis reveals processing errors meant just over 10% of all state pension cases had underpayments impacting around 1.3 million pensioners. The average amount underpaid was more than £400 per person and came at a time when many people were struggling with the cost of living crisis. The colossal underpayments were discovered because the government is now actively carrying out checks rather than using estimates, and this suggests that underpayments could have been much higher in previous years. Ex-Pension Secretary Sir Steve Webb said £530 million is an extraordinary amount of money. It's all the more shocking that proper checks have not been done for more than 15 years. These figures are the first year, but checks have been done properly. They've actually been phoning people up, and unsurprisingly, the payments are very high. Details of the underpayments were unearthed in official government documents about fraud and error in the benefit system. Overall, though, the data reveals that mistakes made by government officials cost benefits and state pension claimants £1.1 billion in the 2021 to 2022 financial year. Nearly one half, which of course is the £530 million, was state pension underpayments, and the figures show that 10.7% of all state pension cases had underpayment due to official error, impacting around 1.3 million pensioners. They also reveal how £140 million was underpaid to universal credit claimants in the same period, while those on employment support allowance were left £130,000 short. Some 1.8 million people were affected by underpayments overall. A Department for Work and Pension spokesperson said state pension underpayments rates remain low. Low? At 0.4% of expenditure. Well, to be honest, I'd love to see things from their position, especially if I think that's so low, but I just can't get my head that far up my own bum, especially with the crap they must be talking there, because let's face it, that's hardly low at all. Something like £400 is going to impact quite a lot of people in these days of Mickey taking price rises everywhere. So there's just no excuse for this, and measures should actually be put in place to make sure that something like this never happens again. Because let's face it, if it was the other way round, they'd soon be chasing us, wouldn't they? And no doubt, of course, there'd be all sorts of threats of prison time, fines, or who knows what else. At least you'd like to think that these people who are finally getting the money owed to them would, I'm guessing as well, get some sort of interest or compensation payment. Although, to be honest, there's probably a better chance of pigs flying before that happens. Which I'm guessing in that case could probably lead to Keir Starmer's next job, if he doesn't go in number 10, that is. And hopefully he won't. But seriously though, how hard is it to actually work out a few sums? Surely people just tell them how owed they are, how much money they get, and anything else the government needs to know. They then put that data in the computer, or use the old-fashioned pencil and pen, which to be honest I don't really do, and just work out the correct amount that they are actually owed. No doubt, of course, this is all blamed on some sort of computer error which needs fixing or something like that. So they avoid blame entirely and can just say sorry, but this sort of thing shouldn't be happening, especially nowadays in 2023. Because let's face it, I'm guessing some errors probably did happen this year, even though the analysis was actually targeting a year or two ago. Who knows, maybe, just maybe, it could be a computer overload while it's trying to process all the potential people coming over here illegally from the safe country of France. I mean, you just don't know, do you? Britain's first woman-only tower block has been approved by planners, and there is only one way that us men are allowed to rent there. 102 flats will be built in West London and will be available for rent to single women. The groundbreaking development plans aims to challenge gender equality. How did they figure that out? And provide much needed homes for women. Each home will have a deep balcony and will be designed specifically for women. Hang on a minute, does that mean it's got a sanitary bin and a bathroom or something? How can it be designed just for women? Anyway, details can include slightly lower kitchen work surfaces and careful attention to ventilation to ensure comfort for menopausal women, said landlord for Women's Pioneer Housing, WPH. The unique apartments will be a mix of 1-bed and 2-bed flats, 100% of which will be affordable, and men will only be able to live there in one of the flats if they become a tenant's partner, or if they are the adult child of a female tenant and inherit the tenancy at a later date. Chief Executive at the WPH, Tracy Downey, told The Guardian that the development would be home for women who have been unable to afford good affordable housing themselves because of their level of income or vulnerability. This could be due to them having been sexually harassed by a private landlord, are full-time mothers relying on income from a partner for whom they are now separated, or have been the victim of domestic violence. The scheme is being developed in partnership with L&Q, one of London's largest housing associations, and the WPH is also planning to build another low-rise, women's-only complex in Shepherd's Bush in West London. Now that, of course, they'll probably try to put these forward and champion needs for women's safety and rights and all sorts of things like that. The problem is, though, is that nowadays there should be absolutely no discrimination at all. And these, if anything, are surely sexist. I mean, can you imagine if a company decided to create a male-only housing complex? I mean, how do you think that would go down? Probably not as well as I'm guessing as this has gone down with some people. And not only that, but thinking about it, that's tarring all us decent blokes with the same brush as horrible people who commit horrible crimes, when the rest of us are totally fine and are in the majority. Yet for some reason, we're still not allowed to live there. It's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, what's next? Women-only towns? It's just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. This has gone way over the top. Because even though, yes, admittedly, women's safety can be a concern, more should be done in general to tackle the crimes on the outside rather than just try to separate women from the rest of the population. And thinking about it, surely if any bad guys or people intend to do horrible things to single women in general, realise that there's a whole building full of them. I mean, it doesn't take a mathematician to put two and two together and think about what they might attempt to do if they, let's say, for example, decide to pay a visit to the building and obviously attempt to get in and who knows what else. So in that case, surely it's putting women's safety back a bit, isn't it? And of course, discriminating against us men who, let's face it, would probably love a new house with all the mod cons, especially being affordable. I mean, with the way rents are going up at the minute, I don't see whether what you got downstairs depends on if you get a good rental deal or not. And not only that, but thinking about it, if they are also some sort of ultra woke progressive company, which to be honest I'm not sure they are, but if they are, do you think that could possibly include some men who are transitioning into women or gender fluid people or whatever else, in which case that's surely making a mockery of their whole thing altogether, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, I am for women's rights and women's safety, but not only does it discriminate against us men, but it also, as I said, could put women's safety at potential risk if any horrible people find them. And at the end of the day, every man or woman deserves the right to feel safe no matter where they go, rather than of course creating a building only for women and potentially saying something to them like, you're only safe here, because that's how it kind of comes across, doesn't it? A mum is furious after she was hit with a £60 fine for staying 16 seconds too long in a car park, and the company rejected her appeal. The woman said she paid for half an hour through the parking app, but was fined after car park bosses said that she occupied the space for 30 minutes and 16 seconds. Posting on Mumsnet, she said, I am so cross. I have received a fine for £60. I paid for 30 minutes on the app and they said that I was in the car park for 30 minutes and 16 seconds. It just feels so criminal that they can do this. I have appealed with photo evidence of the app and they have declined with no explanation. I have escalated the appeal. I can't believe this fine will be upheld in court. The mum added that her entrance and exit from the car park had been timed by a camera and will also send an email to the company asking them exactly what I am being charged for. I have tried to call them 10 times for clarification and despite the voicemail promising a call back, they are yet to call. Well, do you know what? Even though admittedly she should have been back in time, I think it's absolutely disgusting that a company can fine you for just being 16 seconds too late to get back to your car. Or maybe, as the camera records in and out times from the car park itself, that is the time she's being recorded for and not the time actually in the parking space. I mean, let's face it, it could take you a little while to drive around the car park and find a parking space, couldn't it? I remember once literally driving around Riverside car park in Norwich for about 20 or so minutes trying to find a parking space. I guess there was some sort of football match on at the time or something like that, but it literally took me ages. But in either case, you'd like to think there'd be some sort of grace period. And if I remember rightly, there should actually be a 10-minute grace period, so I don't know why that does not apply to this car park. And for them to actually deny the appeal in the first place is absolutely mental, isn't it? I mean, no doubt, of course, they'd try to think of their profit margins and things like that. Car parks aren't exactly cheap, are they? And prices just seem to be going up and up and up as time goes on. It just seems like constant money grabbing from us motorists, doesn't it? And no doubt, of course, when car parks do eventually have some sort of EV charging, for when the time comes we all need an EV, they'll be making money from that as well as us paying for the car park. Unless, of course, they decide to be kind and give it to us for free, but I reckon the closer we get to 2030, the more unlikely that is to happen. But at the end of the day, what these dumbos who fine people for being a few seconds late don't realise is that's going to put these people off from returning to your car park in the future, isn't it? So admittedly, even when you may get a potential fine out of them, you won't be getting any more custom from them, and it'll no doubt put a lot of other people off from returning to your car park as well, which of course probably means they'll be putting the prices up for more people or try to find more people and create a never-ending problem for themselves. At the end of the day though, you'd like to think some sort of common sense approach might prevail here, but I'm just wondering if it actually would do. But I guess that's up to the judge if it goes to court, and with the way judges seem to be nowadays, it seems like only celebrities tend to get off with things, doesn't it? So to be honest, I wish her the very best of luck, and my advice to the car park company is don't be bell ends. The good news is though that in this video, someone has actually found a pretty good loophole to avoid certain fines, which should help out a lot of people. Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.